Good evening, everyone. This is Shreyan from IGCP. I would like to welcome all the viewers who have joined our platform for better exchange of knowledge that is going to be shared by our keynote speaker, Doctor, for today's podcast session on gems on health beginning, hopefully features every gynecology must know in Bharat. With much pleasure and honor, let me welcome today's host, Dr. Sangeeta Gupta. Ma'am, welcome to our forum.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With much pleasure, I would like to welcome ma'am again on our forum. Ma'am is a professor at Saraswati Institute of Medical Science, Hapur, Vice President, Delhi Gynecologist Forum. Now, without any further delay, I would like to welcome again ma'am to our forum and would like to hand over the session to her. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank, thank you, Sriram. And I welcome all of you on the platform today. Today we are one day after the World Health Day. And this World Health Day is observed annually on April 7th. It serves as a global platform to raise awareness about pressing health issues. This year, the World Health Organization has designated the theme as Healthy Beginnings, Hopeful Futures, emphasizing the critical importance of maternal and newborn health and the necessity of providing high quality care during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postnatal period to prevent maternal and infant deaths. This theme aims to highlight the foundational role of maternal and newborn health in building healthy families, healthy communities, ultimately contributing to a more hopeful and healthier future for all. Tragically, based on currently published estimates, close to 300,000 women lose their life during pregnancy or childbirth, while 2 million, more than 2 million babies die in their first month of birth, and around 2 million more are stillborn. That is roughly one preventable death every 7 seconds. So we have to be very alert. And as a call to action today, we have Madam Dr. Sharada Jain with us to discuss gems on healthy beginnings and hopeful futures. Dr. Jain is a synonym with excellence in women's healthcare. A highly respected gynecologist, she has dedicated her life to advancing maternal and newborn health, empowering women, and mentoring generation of doctors. Her contribution extend far beyond clinical practice. She has been a driving force behind numerous academic initiatives, policy recommendations, and training programs aimed at improving gynecological care in Bharat. Presently, she is Director of Life Care Center. She is General Secretary of Delhi Gynecologist Forum, and she is Chairperson of North India Gynecologist Forum, besides being the active member in NMC. I welcome you, madam, on the platform to discuss the today's topic.
Thank you very much. Just 1 minute. I will just share my things. Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta, to give me this opportunity to talk on this occasion of World Health Day, healthy beginning, hopeful futures. And whatever I'm going to talk today is very, very important for every gynecologist in this particular country. They must know all facts and they must contribute liberally in making Bharat a Viksit Bharat. This time, the theme of World Health Day had been a maternal and newborn health and preventable deaths, both at the mother's end and at the baby's end, because every mother counts and every baby has a right to survive, and woman long-term well-being. As far as the Bharat health aims are concerned, each one of us have to make a commitment in 2025 that we will work towards decreasing the maternal mortality to less than 70 per 70 per lakh by 2030. We are definitely very positive that we will be able to do it. And preventable deaths, here we are working very hard to save each mother and the child where things can be prevented and bring down the perinatal deaths by 8 per 1,000 births stillbirth to less than 10 per 1,000 births, according to the WHO, by 2025. Now, the gems which I'm going to talk about, based on the women's health priorities of India that every gynecologist must know. I will touch upon maternal health, reproductive health, cancer prevention, adolescent health, geriatric gynecology, all backed by scientific evidence and national health priorities of Bharat.
I
Now,
would
coming
like to
to
interrupt just a second, and I would also invite Dr. Taru as chairperson of today's talk to join in the studio. Welcome, Dr. Taru. Dr. Taru is professor at ESI Medical College, Basai Darapur, Delhi, and she is a very hardworking doctor,
Thank
and
you,
she
please,
just
ma'am.
will not
Let Madam
academic.
continue, ma'am, please.
Welcome to Dr. Taru on the platform. Sorry, madam,
Thank
for
you.
disturbance.
welcome. Coming to the maternal and obstetric health, this particular slide is very, very important. It tells you about what are the causes of maternal deaths in India in 2024. So you can see the hemorrhage tops the list. Sepsis is coming close to it, and hypertensive disorders have taken a third place. Now, as far as Delhi statistics are concerned, you'll find that this figure is there of the last 4 years. In 2023, there were more than 3 lakhs of delivery with 142 deaths, bringing down the maternal mortality to 47 per 1 lakh. And that's why Delhi is showing much better than the national average. Now, this particular slide shows what is the neonatal mortality rate. As you all know, neonatal mortality is the babies which are lost in the first 4 weeks. As far as National Health Program AIM is concerned, it aims at 16 neonatal mortality rate by 2025, and you can see Delhi has already achieved this particular aim long back, and at the same time we have a long way to go to make it almost preventable deaths as far as the babies are concerned. I think each and every death needs to be scrutinized. Now, as far as infant mortality rate is concerned, the aim of the National Health Program aim is 28 by 2019, and Delhi has already achieved this particular figure. But still, you can find that as far as the infant deaths are concerned, boys are succumbed more than the girls, because the girls have a inherent desire to fight back, and that's why their number is less. Delhi city requires 500 to 1,000 nursery beds in Delhi, and I think the new government is going to work hard on this particular thing. Neonatologists need to train themselves, and I will say that I was trying to review the cases and the results of Delhi and city and NCR, and we find Amrita Institute of Faridabad has doing the best work and the cheapest work. I'm going to show the figure in the end. The government hospitals lack adequate NICU beds, and that's why there is a need for 500 to 1,000 nursery beds. Private sectors are too costly for ordinary person to afford. The daily cost of ventilator for the baby is 50,000 to almost a lakh per day. So I think a lot need to be done, and it should be within the reach of the ordinary people. Now, as far as the maternal mortality is concerned, PPH, as I said, is the biggest killer, and everybody's scared about it. But a lot of work has been done in the last decade as far as preventing maternal deaths as far as the PPH is concerned. PPH bundle, that is first hour, golden hour, is very, very important. The first 60 minutes from the time of recognition of PPH, the rule is 20-20-20. First 20 minutes should be spent on the medical treatment to control the blood postpartum hemorrhage. At the same time, evaluation of the surgical any cause is there. Next 20 minutes is to save the uterus, provided the vital signs of the woman is absolutely all right. And last 20 minutes, in case if you find that the patient is sinking, one has to see to it that the source of bleeding, that is uterus, need to be sacrificed as in order to save the life of the patient. As more time elapses between the point of a severe shock and the start of resuscitation, and finally stopping bleeding, the percentage of surviving patient decreases tremendously. So I think all of us must keep this particular thing in mind. As you can see, the right hand chart also shows the same thing. Now, as far as the active third stage management is concerned, majority of the gynecologists and the nurses know about it, that it is oxytocin 10 units, either given intramuscularly or intravenously, can decrease the risk of PPH by 60%. So this particular simple measure must be used in 100% of cases. If you're not doing that, it is criminal. Postpartum hemorrhage is the top direct cause of the maternal deaths, as you already know. Earlier it was 40%, and now the deaths have been to the tune of, it has markedly come down. In all cases, there should not be any home delivery. With the help of the government, you can find that across country, 95% are institutional deliveries now. And I think there should be surplus use of uterotonics should be available with the medical facilities, and at the same time, beside oxytocin, carbitocin, which is for prevention of postpartum hemorrhage, tranexamic acid also need to be used. It has, if you one uses it early, you can find that the maternal deaths can be prevented to further extent. And remember the golden hour to save the life of this particular patient. Say to now coming to the second cause, that is eclampsia and hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. As you can see, it is responsible for 20% of the maternal deaths of a country. And for this, what one requires, each and every gynecologist should use simple Justosis score at the beginning when the patient reports to you, and then 2-3 times subsequently also. And you find if the Justosis score is 3 or 3 plus, aspirin mini dose should be used. These patients should be also started calcium elemental iron 1 gram, and it should be started early. As far as the antihypertensives are concerned, again, there is no if and but. If you find 140/90 blood pressure is there, liberal use of labetalol or nifedipine can be there. No delivery of the severe PET and eclampsia should take place in primary health center or a small nursing home of 5 to 10 beds. And this can prevent eclampsia and the deaths due to eclampsia. This is a very simple Justosis score, and I think all gynecologists are aware of it. People who are not aware of it, please see to it that you get in touch with us, and we definitely provide you this Justosis score. Simple one. You should keep right on your phone, put it on your table, and then everybody must be scored for Justosis score. If it is 3 or more than 3, mini dose of aspirin of 75 milligram need to be used. As you can see, that at a 0 time, if you want to decrease the eclampsia rate, the Justosis score has to be done, aspirin has to be started, calcium has to be given, antihypertensive to be started at 140/90, and what we call a Sanjeevani booty, Maxel, has to be given to all severe hypertensive disorders of patient and patients of eclampsia at 0 hour, at primary health center or in small nursing home before they are referred to a big hospital. For early effective referral has to be there at a higher center. These are the 3 magic tablets which just now I mentioned about it. That is aspirin and calcium after the Justosis score is 3 or more than 3. Now, low dose aspirin has to be used, and this can decrease the PET incidence of PET by 50%. Immediate management of severe PIH and eclampsia is that they have to be given at a 0 hour in primary health center or a small nursing home, the Sanjeevani booty, which is called magnesium sulfate. If it is given, it will control seizures and it can prevent maternal death. Control hypertension with labetalol in case if it is there at the periphery, it can be given. Delivery, one should remember the rule of target is 12 hours. From the first fit, the delivery should not be delayed more than 12 hours. And postpartum care is also very, very essential. The third cause is the sepsis. In fact, now it has become number 2 killer in the maternal mortality after PPH, because once you find that the deaths because of PPH is decreasing and anemia and other factors are decreasing, sepsis rate has increased, and nearly it is amounting to 25% of preventable maternal deaths. Strict adherence to septic bundle is very, very important to save lives. And if you do that, you can definitely save lives of these patients. Now, as for the Anemia Mukt Bharat is concerned, we've come a long, long way. But our Honorable Prime Minister wants Bharat to be Viksit by 2047. Already we are the fifth economic power. By end of this 2025, we will be the fourth world economic power, beating Japan, and by 2026 end, we will become the third economic power, beating Germany. Iron deficiency anemia affects 50% of the pregnant women. Earlier, the deaths direct or indirectly related to anemia were 40%, and now it has come down to 8%. It is the severe anemia. It is the severe anemia which kills the mother and the baby. Universal iron folic acid tablet has to be given even if the hemoglobin of a patient is more than 12 gram percent to prevent anemia. But intravenous iron therapy is required in moderate anemia when the hemoglobin is 10 or less than 10, and hospitalization and blood transfusion in severe anemia when the hemoglobin is 7 or less than that, it will be game changer. Now, this particular slide beautifully says on the right hand side that the anemia takes a toll of 8%. All these patients must be screened with CBC and peripheral blood smear. Electrophoresis should be done by HPLC to rule out thalassemia. Government of India mandates admission and blood transfusion for severe anemia, that is 7 gram or less. Injectable iron for moderate anemia once you find that the hemoglobin is 10 or little less than 10. Deworming should be done for all ROPD patients, even if the patient's hemoglobin is 11 gram percent or she's mild anemia, 200 milligram of iron folic acid has to be given. Don't forget proteins, folate, and B12 as a part and parcel of the treatment of anemia. Now, as for the tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis is concerned, what is called Tdap, it is very, very important. Now, one of dose has to be given after 28 weeks to take care of the antibodies which are passed down from the mother to the baby. And this can prevent neonatal mortality rate by 30% because first 3 months, because of the whooping cough, these tiny babies are lost. And in case if this injection has been given to the mother, the transfer of antibodies can save these babies. The babies do not can't be given vaccination in the first 3 months. We must be obsessed about that, with the previous cesarean section, the placenta previa to be ruled out. And not only placenta previa, if it is found, then you must see that the placenta accreta spectrum also need to be ruled out. In case if it is missed, it can be lethal. In best of settings, you can lose the patients. So early detection of placental abnormality is life-saving. Antenatal ultrasound plus Doppler studies can predict placenta previa in previous cesarean sections, placenta accreta spectrum, and even IUGR. IUGR also detection is very, very important because these are the patients, in case if the management is not right, we can have a perinatal death because of this particular problem. If it is not rightly managed, when to take out this baby and what should be the route of termination of these pregnancies. Folic acid supplementation, I think our medical fraternity knows it very well, that it has to be started preconceptionally. 400 microgram folic acid is started 1 month before the pregnancy, and it is continued in the first 3 months of pregnancy. This reduces the neural tap defect by almost 75%. Now, antenatal steroids had been a matter of lot of controversies, but I think things are sorted out to a large extent. It is given in cases who are high risk cases for preterm birth or who present with a threatened preterm labor. Up to 34 weeks, it is given. There has been a debate earlier on the dexamethasone versus betamethasone. Now the consensus is that it is dexamethasone which need to be given. The salt of betamethasone which is there is not to be used. Again, there was a controversy earlier whether the repeat doses should be done, and now the consensus has come out that in case if you want to repeat, you can give maximum of 3 doses of antenatal steroids. Now, as far as the steroids in diabetic mothers are concerned, again, it is very much needed. But during when the steroids are given, then the fluctuation in the mother's blood sugars can go haywire, and close monitoring is required. The only contraindication for antenatal steroids are infection, when there is a gross infection. Now, a lot of work has been done on the preterm hypertensive disorders of pregnancy and nutrition. Because of positive time, I'm just going to summarize it. Dexamethasone has to be given as antenatal steroids for acceleration of pulmonary maturity. Antenatal steroids, maximum 3 courses can be given. Progesterone is vaginally is much better than other forms of progesterone medication. As far as gestosis score, if it is 3 or more than 3, then 75 gram of aspirin need to be used to prevent PT and eclampsia in such cases. Max self in preterm cases can be given for a neuroprotection of the baby, and it has to be given for less than 32 weeks and for 24 hours only. In preterm cases, one should avoid using amoxiclav as an antibiotic, because this augmentin preparation is known to give rise to necrotizing enterocolitis in the baby. So this particular antibiotic is not to be used. Now, as far as the nutrition is concerned, again, there's a lot of confusion among people. First and foremost thing is you must make calories. And then you should see the quality of your diet, that you can take an high protein diet, which is high protein means 1.5 gram per kg. But as such high protein, you should not be emphasizing it, because this can do more harm than good. Zinc is not beneficial. Arginine is promising whenever there is an IUGR. And as for the supplementation of micronutrients and antioxidants is concerned, there's an inadequate evidence to work on this particular area. Now, this is a wonderful slide. I think, these are the golden points, and each and everybody who is watching this particular presentation, इनको figures ये याद रखनी है. 22 weeks in Delhi and NCR की बात कर रहे हैं. At 22 weeks, you can save 3 babies out of 10 babies. 7 babies are going to die. But 1 in 3 babies will have a severe disability, while 2 out of these 3 babies will not have severe disability. At 24 weeks, out of 10 babies, 6 babies will survive. Out of these babies, 1 in 7 babies will have a severe disability, but 6 out of 7 babies will not have any severe disability. At 25 weeks, you can find 7 in 10 babies will survive, and 1 in 7 baby will have a severe disability. At 26 weeks, 8 out of 10 babies can survive, and 1 in 10 babies will have a severe disability. I think each one of you, when you counsel your patients, you must know that there are centers where you can save the babies, and this is what the whole thing is. I was just talking about it. The time has come that more and more emphasis is going that you should only use ventilation when it is really required. Asepsis and monitoring these patients with other things can do you much good in terms of survival of the baby. Good that because of the strict implementation by the government of India, institutional deliveries have come close to 95%, and in Delhi it is close to 96%. Now, a baby is stillborn every 16 seconds. A baby, this particular figure need to be known, and this is, you can see the 85% occur in the low or the middle income group, and our country is not far behind. Stillbirths, as for the national aim is concerned, and the WHO target is to have it 12 or less per 1,000 total births by 2030. And every newborn action plan by the WHO has aimed for these 12 or less. But the Stillbirth Society of India, along with the government of India, aims to reduce stillbirth rate to less than 10 stillbirths per 100 births by 2030. At the moment, we are 14. more than the national average. Now, when it comes to stillbirth, I said every child has a right for survival, and you can see that India is the capital of diabetes mellitus, and that's why it is a capital of gestational diabetes as well. And the figures of gestational diabetes in our Indian pregnant patient is skyrocketing. And when it comes to GDM, सबके antenna खड़े हो जाते हैं, because in case if it is not diagnosed or remains untreated, the stillbirth rate is very high. This slide summarizes the facts about the GDM. You can see in throughout pregnancy, 90% are GDM and 10% are over diabetes cases. The incidence is around 15% today, but in other parts of the country, it is 20%. And in another 5 years' time, you'll find the incidence of gestational diabetes will mount to 20%. 90% of GDM disappears after delivery, but 50% of these women who have had GDM may develop diabetes in 5 to 10 years' time. The treatment is very simple. 70% of patients don't require any medicines. Only they require, nutritional medical therapy has to be told to them. The diet need to be explained by the doctor, and they can control the blood sugars just by diet alone. And once it fails, and you fail to make the blood sugars less than 120, then we add metformin, which is required in around 25% of patients. And in case if still the blood sugars are not less than 120, then we need to add insulin, which is only required in 5% of cases. In India, the glucose challenge test is the simplest form of screening, which is accepted by the government as well as by FOXI. And the screening during pregnancy can save mother and child from ill effects of GDM. Again, I emphasize it's a very simple test, one-step test of 75 gram OGTT at admission, and at 24 to 28 weeks it is repeated, and it can pick up gestational diabetes in 100% of cases. And by making the management very simple, you can prevent stillbirths and neonatal complications in these babies. So remember, universal GDM screening is mandatory. Now, as for the antenatal fetal monitoring, should start at 32 weeks, especially in metros for all gynecologists. This is a simple tip. They must use some physiofundal height to pick up IUGR cases early. Daily fetal fetal movement count. The mothers should be taught, and they can very easily learn this particular thing. Liberal use of CTG and a growth scan should be done at 34 to 35 weeks in all high-risk IUGR cases to pick up and time the delivery. Intrapartum fetal monitoring is crucial for reducing stillbirths in high-risk cases. Intermittent auscultation is good for low-risk cases, but the continuous CTG for high-risk pregnancies can reduce adverse outcome. As for the LSCS rate in our country is concerned, it is figures around 21.5%. Without medical indication, it should be discouraged. Unnecessary cesarean section above 15% increases maternal morbidity without decreasing neonatal morbidity. So I think, when you find the neonatal gain is not there, we should not increase the cesarean section rate. And the government of India is strict about it. It is becoming serious to see to it that the LSCS rate in our country does not increase. Now, so the breastfeeding is concerned, everybody must be thinking, madam, breastfeeding के बारे में क्यों बता रहे हैं, पर इसमें बहुत काम करना बाकी है, and still it is not universal. And you find only 85% people use breastfeeding, while the golden hour breastfeeding, that is first 1 hour, they should breastfeeding must be started, and this is only done in 55% of cases. And I think we should work very hard. All doctors and nurses work hard on this, that we should use this first hour as a golden hour to start breastfeeding. Breastfeeding for 6 months supplement after breastfeeding for 6 months is required, and this mother requires supplementation of iron folic acid for 6 months, and 2 tablets of calcium for 6 months postpartum will prevent anemia, and it will improve the bone health in such patients. 3 postpartum visits are mandatory to decrease 60% of the postnatal complications. Postpartum counseling by doctors and nurses is the most vital part of it, to see to it that when should be the next pregnancy, and counseling about various medical conditions which this particular patient has had it. Now, early postpartum contraception prevents short interpregnancy interval. We should aim that the gap should be 2 years, ideal is 3 years. Postpartum IUCD or progesterone only pills can reduce unintended pregnancy, which are close to almost 50%, not 30%, 50%. Now, coming to the adolescent and reproductive health. Adolescent make, that is, girls between 10 to 20 years make 21% of the population. PCOS is an emerging an epidemic in Indian adolescent girls, and you can find that the incidence in metros, these girls have nearly one third are affected by PCOD. 70% of PCOS cases remain undiagnosed, leading to bad metabolic and reproductive consequences. Lifestyle modification is very much required. If a girl normalizes her weight, then you find 50% of problem is taken care of it. If you're 5 feet, then your weight should be 50 kg. This is the first line of treatment. Adolescent anemia, hemoglobin less than 12 gram percent, affects 55 to 60% of the girls. Weekly iron folic acid supplementation, even if your hemoglobin is 12 gram or more, is required. Deworming is required twice a year universally. HPV vaccination before the sexual debut prevents 90% of cervical cancer. I repeat again. HPV vaccination before the sexual debut prevents 90% of the cervical cancer. The knowledge and the awareness of our HPV vaccination is very, very, very poor. Each one of us have to create awareness. 90% of the girls in 9 to 15 years should be vaccinated without delay. Bharat needs an urgent push for universal HPV vaccination for girls between 9 to 15 years when they are still in the school, and it should be done by all stakeholders. The government of India has publicized it in the parliament twice that it will be included in the national immunization program, but we have yet to see it. But once it is started, I think we go on emergency mode as it was done in a COVID vaccination drive. Bad menstrual hygiene impacts, it's a long-lasting impact it has on the adolescent girl. If you want her to be reproductively healthy and safe, eco-friendly menstrual pads are needed to reduce reproductive tract infection. Sexual abuse and reproductive caution are major public health in Bharat, and you find this particular incidence is increasing. All gynecologists must be trained to screen for gender-based violence and provide medical and legal support. We take pride that we have made the films for victim of such cases, whether they are children or even young girls. These things are training programs are used across the country, and it should be used by each and every gynecologist to train themselves. Coming to oncology and cancer prevention, India has a large and a huge population of 140 million, and a simple way to remember that 140 lakhs cancer cases are seen yearly. Cervical cancer deaths are more than the total maternal deaths. Total maternal deaths in this particular country are around 25,000 per year, and the total cervical cancer deaths are 75,000, 3 times more. So not only the WHO has given us the triple pillar strategy, 90% girls should be vaccinated, 70% should be screened, which are at present only 3% are screened. We have to scale up screening, and 90% of people where you find any precancer lesion is picked up have to be treated. Every woman over 30 years must get screened every 3 to 5 years. As for the endometrial cancer is concerned, it is rising in postmenopausal patient in Bharat. There is no universal screening program is suggested, but early diagnosis through transvaginal sonography and endometrial biopsy in high-risk cases can save many lives. Ovarian cancer has no screening program, but early symptoms matter. And I think gynecologists must get obsessed about ovarian cancer. Whenever a patient complains of bloating, there is an early satiety कि 2-3 गस्से खाए और पेट भर गया. And pelvic pain should not be ignored by gynecologists. CA125 and ultrasound helps in early detection of ovarian cancer. As for the breast cancer is concerned, we all know about it. This is the number one cancer in our country, and its incidence is rising, and it is seen in the younger people as well. Self-breast examination should be taught from the adolescent, right in the school and the colleges. Every girl must be told how to do self-breast examination. Simple thing to do. Mammography screening must be customized for Indian women. Annual screening from 40 years in high-risk women, where you find there is a family history, and 50 years in general population, it should be done. There are many facilities which are underutilized. Coming to menopause and geriatric gynecology. The average age of menopause in our country is 46 years. You can find that gynecologists, जब से VHI की study आई है, डर गए हैं. They use menopausal hormone therapy is underutilized. I can say MHT is safe and effective for symptomatic women with proper risk assessment. The safe time is less than 10 years from menopause, and the principle is smallest dose for the shortest possible time it should be given. Vagina atrophy is treatable. Many people suffer silently. It is ignored. Vaginal estrogen and non-hormonal therapy significantly can improve sexual health in an aging woman. It should not be ignored. Osteoporosis is seen from 10 to 60% of the population depending upon what strata they belong to, and the screening should start at menopause. But people like us at Delhi Gynecologist Forum feel that the preventive DEXA scan must be done at age 40 years. And then you can see the wonders. And if you find there's a deficiency like osteopenia and osteoporosis, she has enough time to work on herself. With the supplementation of calcium, vitamin D, and exercising at least 150 minutes per week. This can reduce osteopenia and osteoporosis and later fracture in aging life. As for the urinary incontinence is concerned, 40% of the postmenopausal women are suffering from this. Pelvic floor exercises and early intervention can improve quality of life. Kegel exercise is biggest mantra. I think it should be taught right in the colleges, in pregnancy, after pregnancy it be taught, then you'll find this particular problem will be less in postmenopausal patients. Cardiovascular risk surges post-menopause. We used to feel that, cardiac problem is men's category. But now we find 40% total deaths in India of the women are because of the cardiovascular death. 10 years it occurs early than the Western counterparts. Gynecologists must monitor BP, lipid, diabetes mellitus should be ruled out, and the lifestyle changes should be advised to prevent heart disease in such cases. Preventing and public health issues. Unsafe abortions still take place in our country. They're responsible for 8% of the total maternal deaths. In spite of this, that the MTP Act came in 1971, and India has the most liberal law on abortion in the world. Access to safe abortion services and awareness about medical abortion pills is crucial. Family planning must be modernized. Reversible methods like implants, injectables, modern IUDs need wider adoptions to prevent unintended pregnancies, which are close to 50%. Pelvic infections are rising due to poor hygiene and sexual practices. Screening and early treatment of STI, which is amounted to 6 to 8%, can reduce infertility, which bothers 1 in 6 couples, and PID rate is around 3 to 10%. 20 to 40% of gynae admissions are only because of the PID. I think we need to work on this particular area a little more. Obesity bothers 10%, and it increases the risk of infertility, pregnancy complications, and cancers. National Health Obesity Prevention Program is needed. The 60% women have a central obesity where the waist is more than 85 centimeter. Doctor-patient communication is the backbone of the good gynecological practice. Compassion, shared decision-making, the patient education can improve adherence and outcomes. So, final takeaway is that these gems, which I have just outlined, are needed, very much needed in day to day gynae practice, not just for knowledge but action points to transform gynecological care in Bharat. A mission mode approach is needed to integrate preventive, evidence based, patient centered strategies in daily practice. Thank you very much.
So thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Shadaji and madam, for an excellent and elaborate talk. Madam has touched upon all the important causes of maternal mortality, morbidity, all the other problems which a woman face in her life throughout the spectrum, that is from adolescent to menopause. Madam's talk has enriched all of us with the valuable gems, the strategies that can help support healthy pregnancies, childbirth, and a later postnatal health. So, the points to ponder from Madam's talk are: number one, we need to prioritize regular health checkup throughout the pregnancy so that we can stratify, we can do the risk stratification, we can do early detection and management of all the complications. It is very important to talk to patient, to tell them about the importance of nutrition and physical activity. Mental health is very important, which is often overlooked. Then it is very important that we should ensure that all women should have access to healthcare expert and healthcare facility infrastructure. So throughout the pregnancy, labor and delivery, as madam emphasized, that the institutional delivery should be around 100%. Definitely we should do pre-conceptional counseling and optimize the medical condition of the patient so that she conceives in a safe things. And there we should do the first trimester is the best time where we can predict.
I think there's some issues as far
I
as
think some net issue,
internet is
network issue
concerned.
is
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Uh,
Now we can take any questions, Shijon. Hello. If there are any
Hello, ma'am.
questions, we can take. Yes.
No, ma'am, there is no such question yet.
Great.
I think Dr. Taru
Dr.
will
Sangeeta, any
join us
comments by
back.
you?
Yeah. Dr. Taru will join us back as soon as her network is okay. So from today's talk, what I come to the conclusion is the better maternal health means improving the rights of women and girls so that they can plan their lives and protect their health. We have to address indirect causes of maternal death, as madam has very clearly emphasized the role of anemia, role of HIV, diabetes, and
डॉक्टर साहब आप म्यूट हो गए डॉक्टर संगीता म्यूट हो गए
so that they can have a healthy life. And a healthy life of mother and baby leads towards a healthy future of the community. Prevention and early detection of all these conditions, which madam has discussed in detail in her talk, is very important. And I really thank madam for sharing her time, knowledge, and her passion with us today. Every point, every insight which you told to us, madam, were like precious gems full of wisdom, clarity, and a purpose. Everything which you have discussed has got its own purpose, and we all have to become active for fulfilling the saying of madam sentences, what she want to achieve as far as our Bharat is concerned. And now again I invite Dr. Taru to share her valuable comments about madam's today's platform and today's session.
So ma'am, sorry, because of some unstable network, there was a problem. So continuing that, ma'am, I would say that collective actions of ours today will definitely ensure a healthier future generations. So we all should focus more on the first trimester because it is a time where we can predict the complications like preeclampsia, which is a very important contributor for the maternal morbidity and mortality. Then we can definitely predict gestational diabetes. The DIPSI should be done at the first contact. We can predict preterm labor, FGR, which are important cause for stillbirth. Then the importance of postnatal care, because it is these problems, medical conditions, they have a long effect. The patient who has diabetes has 50% chances of developing type 2 diabetes in the later in life, in the next 10 to 20 years. So the postnatal period is also very important. We should counsel the patient. The lifestyle interventions should be told to her. Then furthermore, madam has said that the first cesarean should be avoided, because it is the first cesarean is the most important thing. We should focus on cesarean, or maternal request should be totally stopped. on जो हम उसमें करते हैं कई बार, although we don't do, जो जन्म पत्री से बनवाते हैं, मतलब these things should absolutely be stopped, because once a cesarean, it affects the woman's condition, because there are increased chances of cesarean scar pregnancy, abnormal placentation, placenta accreta spectrum, which is a very important cause of maternal mortality these days. The need of multiple transfusions. So all these things, primary cesarean should definitely be stopped. Then for all the critical care emergencies, bundle approach should be used. We should be familiar with the bundle approach, because these are the initiatives which involve multiple interventions that are standardized and that comprehensively address the management of pathologies. So the bundle approach for PPH, bundle approach for sepsis, these all checklists should be available with us at the facility. The drills should be done frequently, so that the young generations, they are familiar with all the maneuvers and procedures. Then the counseling and debriefing is very important after any event. We should be able to counsel the patient, relatives, and we should interrogate in amongst ourselves. What went wrong? How can we improve? So there should be always a positive thing, not to penalize someone, not to criticize someone. So that should be there. And I think madam has covered in totality the maternal health, the women's
So in
health.
the end, now we give take-home messages. One thing is, I will say, the pregnancy is like a window. It should be watched very carefully, and whatever is going to come 10, 15 years down the line, pregnancy is going to show. Secondly is, any investment during pregnancy. If you invest 1 rupee, it will yield 10 rupees. So the investment, more and more investment should be there in this particular area. And I think, no woman should die for giving birth to a new child. So I think, this particular part should be remembered. Dr. Sangeeta, any last minute slogan by you, and the last minute slogan by Taru?
Thank you. Thanks, madam, again for your truly inspiring words. Today's is totally, madam का ने दिल खोल के अपनी बातें करी हैं, जो madam, what you talk daily, day in, day out, is all has been told by madam in today's talk, and we all should follow it. And really, अगर हम सब मिलके एक साथ चले, तो हम एक healthy, स्वस्थ माँ और स्वस्थ बच्चा सबको दे सकते हैं, ताकि बिगनिंग ही अगर स्ट्रांग होगी तो हमारा फ्यूचर भी बहुत स्ट्रांग होगा. सो लेट्स ऑल जॉइन हैंड्स फॉर ए हेल्दी बिगनिंग एंड ए होपफुल फ्यूचर.
Yes,
I
ma'am,
think, this particular. Yes, madam. Dr. Taru.
नहीं मैम, प्लीज आप कंटिन्यू करें.
ये चीज है कि I think each one of us must know what are the latest figures of the government of India. From there only we can build on. So I think this is very, very important. We are especially thankful to Shijon and this particular platform to giving us reach, which is a national reach, and many, many people are watching us directly, and subsequently will be seeing it on the Facebook and the YouTubes and otherwise. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Dr. Taru.
Thank you for the valuable pearls, ma'am. Thank you for the valuable gems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, thanks, and I think we will be sharing many such more sessions for having a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Lastly,
Thank you.
I would like to conclude by thanking Shraddha Jain ma'am for sharing her wonderful knowledge with us, and also choosing our platform for this session. And I would like to thank all the speakers who have joined our platform as well. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.